Okay, short encounter, but worth it. This was about 6-7 years ago, when I was driving back with my girlfriend from a concert late at night. We both swear by this. We saw a full-grown wolf turn in or shapeshift into a man in front of us. This thing leaps onto the road, and then proceeds to look at our vehicle, stop in the middle of the road, and before our eyes, just like in the show Animorphs, if you've ever seen that, throwback to the late 90s, early 2000s, transform into a very weird shaped man, covered in animal skins, and then run off the side of the road. This considerably freaked my girlfriend and I out, and caused me to do a U-turn and drive a different way back home. My grandmother, still to this very day, believes she has a curse placed on her life. Her father used to be a witch doctor, or so I'm told. I'm not exactly sure what they're called in the native culture, so I'll just be referring to him as a witch doctor. Now, her father was a very evil man, supposedly killing my grandmother's mother for the sake of power so he could be more powerful and transform. I don't know all the little details, but I guess he had made a deal with the devil or some sort of pact to kill for power. As my grandmother got older, she fought against her father and defied his wicked ways, which caused her very own father to turn against her, to banish her from the family and the land, and to even put a curse on her, which calls in other skinwalkers, I'll say skinwalkers for the story, to come and try to come against her. Since this happened, she was probably right around 17 or 18. She has had multiple run-ins with shapeshifters, skinwalkers, who all try and claim her life. She has had her name called from the deserts when nobody else was around. She's had coyotes chase her car down in the middle of the night, and beings with horns and skulls trying to break into her apartment. This has been an ongoing thing throughout her entire life, and there seems to be no escape. She's done every single spell and ward that she knows of to get rid of these things, but nothing seems to work, and she's not sure what to do. Now, my grandmother is 74. She's very healthy, and still very much alive and alert. Now, I think she's just more wary of the things that come around. But these creatures of the night are still very aware of her, and have not given up pursuing her and her life. Okay, I'm still freaking out from this. This just happened last night. I live alone in my little single-wide trailer, out here in the middle of nowhere, not too far away from the res. I'm sitting here, playing on my computer, when, just outside my house, I heard my father's voice calling for me, telling me to come outside. It was distinct. There's no mistaking my father. He has a very deep voice. His voice is so unmistakable and so deep. It always was. But here's the problem to all of this. My father passed away from pancreas cancer almost 5 years ago to the day. There is no way it is possible that he could be outside my house, which only means one thing. I have a skinwalker that's trying to get into my house, or at least trying to lure me. With COVID, I've been trying to keep locked up in my house, keep stocked up on toilet paper and all the necessary supplies, as to not be out and spread it, hopefully to anybody. And the reason I mention this is because I'm pretty sure I've not made any enemies, nor do I have anybody that I dislike, and vice versa. I have not wronged anybody. I have not done anything considerably bad in my past. So I'm sitting here, freaking out, trying to wonder who I've wronged to reap the curse that's happening to me now, and what do I do in order to ward this thing off. It only happened last night, so I have no idea if this is going to be a reoccurring pattern, or if it's going to keep coming and trying to break in the house. Also, I have to ask, if it does break in my house, what is its plans? Is it going to hurt me in any way? Is its entire job to scare me, or is it wanting to kill me, suck my soul, suck the life out of me, and devour me? What's the scariest thing you've ever seen, personally? Because the scariest thing I've ever seen is an upright walking coyote. A deformed upright walking coyote. I saw it the other day, early December, driving to work. It was still dark out, since I have to arrive at my place of work about 4 in the morning, and with it being winter, well, that doesn't leave much light to come into play. I live in the Great Northwest, and I'm surprised that there might be a skinwalker around here. Dare I even say that? I do live close to a reservation, and I have no idea if there's any ties between the two. I always thought skinwalkers were exclusively Navajo, but I guess not. I guess shapeshifting can take part in just about any native culture. At least now. My place of work, and where I live, is only roughly 20-25 miles away from the Warm Springs Reservation, here in Oregon. While I don't really know too much about their tribe, or any traditions at all, I'm sure they too have their fair share of people who practice black magic, and I'm sure shapeshifting, although I don't know how much of that correlates with what I'm seeing. I've seen it multiple times now, and it's the only coyote I've ever seen in my life that stands and walks casually on 2 legs, like that of a person, and it looks ugly, like it has burnt skin or severe mange all over its body, and even parts of bone protruding out of its flesh. I only catch glimpses of it here and there, but I know it's out and about and roaming, but I just can't quite help to think that this coyote that I'm seeing has something to do with what I'm seeing. Anyway, if you could offer me any advice, it would greatly be appreciated. A close friend of mine recently made a dire mistake. See, he doesn't really believe in skinwalkers or know much about them, but I do. In fact, I'm well aware of them, and have my own multitude of personal run-ins with these things. I know they exist. I don't need convincing. But my friend, however, went to a very forbidden burial site on native reservation territory, and is now regretting it. See, something followed him back home. Whatever it is has been trying to lure him out of his house at night, every single night constantly, day after day. It won't stop. He says it has an incredibly evil presence to it, and has a very dark energy. He started telling me what he was doing and what he did, and I told him he most likely invoked a skinwalker, and it has now drawn itself to him, following him around. I'm not exactly sure if there's even medicine men who will help him, although I'm sure there are, but I guess from what he's told me, he's already been rejected by 2 for what he was doing, although his pleas are becoming a little more urgent, as he says this spirit, or whatever it is becoming increasingly hostile against him, which I don't know what that's going to result in or lead to, but I don't want to find out. I keep urging him to get some sage, and desperately seek the help of a medicine man who can help him and bless him. How much he's going to carry that out, I don't exactly know, but he certainly did something to piss these things off, and something must have followed him home for a reason. His claim to me was that he accidentally or unknowingly disrespected the burial site. He wouldn't go into detail. I think probably because he was ashamed of what he did. I don't know what he did. He still has not told me, but it must be something somewhat bad. I really don't know how to explain this series of events. Maybe it was a skinwalker, maybe it was a demon, or maybe something else entirely. I was sitting at home, watching TV on the couch, when my cat and dog started reacting, and I did too. This horrendous smell of rotting flesh came to the house. It was awful. It seemed to move along the back side of the house, and just as quickly as it appeared, it also disappeared, and my cat and dog went back to acting normal. But when it happened, they weren't just taking notice of the smell. They started going crazy, barking, and my cat acting like a schizo. I didn't pay much attention to that, even though at the time I thought it was weird. But when it happened a second time, this time, a few days later at nighttime, that I began to have a suspicion something more sinister was at foot. I'm lying in bed this time, and I could almost feel like a wave of energy come towards the backside of the house, and move along the entire back side, off to the side, and then disappear again. Along with this energy force, I could smell that horrendous rotting meat smell. It kind of smelled like you stuck your head in an old metal dumpster with a bunch of rotting ground beef that had been sitting there in the heat for days and maggots. It was that bad. My dog and cat again, who sleep in my bed with me, reacted the same way they did a previous few days, going crazy. It just was an overwhelming sense of evil. It was so thick, you could feel it in the air. And the force energy that I'm talking about was almost electrical, like electricity in the air, static, if you will. The entire backside of my house faces a large section of woods that are unused to my knowledge. The only thing I could possibly use to prove it was a skinwalker was that I live about 50 miles away from a reservation. Is that any proof at all that this could be a skinwalker?